Brittles are fascinating because they are essentially the glass of the candy world. I mean, sure, they taste better than glass, but they're brittle like glass, they'll shatter like glass, and sometimes they're even as transparent as glass. Not surprisingly, the manufacturing similarities are uncanny. For instance, when you make glass, you're basically melting down silica crystals, sand, to make an amorphous solid. In brittle making, you're melting down a lot of sugar crystals to make an amorphous solid. And oddly enough, they can both get messed up the same way. If the vessel they're cooked in is dirty, if the mixture itself is impure, if it's agitated at the wrong time, little baby crystals can be formed in the mixture. And as they cook, these little crystals can grow into bigger and bigger crystals. And eventually, your nice clear glass starts looking more like a shower door, and your brittle starts looking more like a praline, which is nice, but it's not a brittle. Now, a couple of things are needed to get around this problem. One is just plain old-fashioned know-how. The other, decent tools. In the case of brittle, you're going to need a nice, heavy-duty pan. I like a saucier because the shape helps to create an environment for evaporation. It's going to need a nice tight lid. You're also going to need a good wooden spoon. Why wood? Because wood doesn't conduct heat, and that's good for the candy as well as the hand that stirs it. Software begins with just a little bit of vegetable oil on the side of the pot. That's going to prevent any sugar crystals that are planted there from the boiling brew from growing into bigger crystals and throwing off the texture. Then, 3 cups of sugar and 1.5 cups of water. Now, since syrups get really, really thick and can't be stirred during most of the cooking process, even heat from below is crucial. Now, heavy-duty pans, especially clad pans, which contain a layer of aluminum or copper in between layers of steel, will even out the heat considerably. But if you don't trust your pans, or if your stovetop tends to have hot spots, consider employing another pan as a heat diffuser. Cast iron is a really good one. There we go. Now, we apply high heat and just stir this occasionally as it comes to a boil. Now, as you can see, our mixture has come to a boil, and the pattern of bubbles leaving the bottom of the pan is very, very even. That is because we're using a heat diffuser. Now, the bubbles are going to be bigger at the beginning of the boil, and although we did lube up the side of the pan, there's going to be a lot of sugar thrown up on the side of it. So I'm going to cover this for at least 3 minutes. That way, some of the steam will condense and run back down the side, cleaning the pan. 3 minutes are up. Time to clamp on our candy thermometer. Or maybe not. Truth is, when it comes to brittles, you can generally skip the technology and trust your eyes. What we're looking for here is a light amber, okay? That'll kind of signal us that the right concentration has been reached. But do not shake, touch, stir, or move this pan in any way. At this point, even one little errant crystal could trigger a confectionery catastrophe. We don't want that. So turn your heat down to medium and wait. Don't stray far. Of course, you could go on the other side of the kitchen. Time to tend to the rest of our hardware needs. 2 half sheet pans, 1 lined with either parchment paper or preferably a silicone impregnated fiberglass baking mat available at most kitchen stores. This pan we will invert and liberally lubricate with canola or vegetable oil, and I do mean liberally. You want to get all the way up onto the sides of the pan. There's nothing going to stick to this. There we go. Okay, last minute software prep. We have 1.5 cups of lightly salted peanuts. To that, we will add half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. No big surprise there, you say? Fine. How about half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper? No, it's not exactly orthodox, but I like to take a cue from our friends down to the south who know that adding heat to sweets almost always equals good eats. Now, we will go and wait on the syrup, and wait we must, because once it hits light amber, it'll never return, and it'll be too late. This is exactly what we're looking for. Light amber, very, very slow bubbling, and if you did put a thermometer in there, I'd say about 350 degrees. I want to stop the cooking, so I'm going to turn off the heat and dump in the peanuts all at once. Give that a good stir. And we really don't have to worry about crystallization at this point because this color tells us that many of the original sucrose molecules have been damaged by the high heat. So much so that they can no longer form crystals because they're no longer that much alike. Lucky for us, the new compounds being formed here have more flavor complexity and sweetness than the original sugar had. There. I'm going to very, very carefully move this to a towel. And I'm just going to pull that along. It's kind of a safety measure. And now, pour straight out on the pad. And smooth out the nuts to evenly distribute them. It's going to set up really quickly, so you don't want to take your time here. Kind of fold the part that flows out back onto the brittle. And then just to make sure that the nuts are only stacked one deep, we add the pan. And now, gently push down just to distribute the nuts. Make sure it stays flat. You know, when it comes to peanut brittle, there are two kinds of people. There are biters and there are lickers. Me, I'm kind of a licker, I guess. How many licks do you think it takes to eat a piece of peanut brittle like this? Let's find out, shall we? 1, 2, 3. 3. It takes 3 licks to eat this piece of peanut brittle.